Today carries a different weight than most ordinary days do. And I want you to notice that before anything else. Something in you already sensed it this morning, a quiet stirring you could not fully explain, a sense that today was not going to be simply another repetition of yesterday. I want to honor that sense, rather than let it pass by unexamined. You did not arrive at this message by pure accident. Something quieter than chance and older than coincidence brought your attention here, at this exact point in your life, and I want you to actually sit with it rather than skim past it, the way you might skim past most things during a busy day. I want to talk honestly about the long stretch that has led you to this particular day. There have been seasons of genuine waiting, moments when you prayed for something specific and heard what felt like silence in return. There have been stretches of effort that did not seem to produce visible results. Doors that stayed closed despite your best attempts to open them. Disappointments that tested whether you would keep believing something good was still possible for your life. I want you to know that none of that waiting was wasted, even though it likely felt that way during the hardest parts of it. I want to speak about what waiting actually accomplishes, because I think it is often misunderstood as simply empty time passing without purpose. A period of waiting, especially one filled with continued effort and continued hope, despite discouraging circumstances, tends to build something in a person that instant success rarely builds. It builds patience that can withstand future difficulty. It builds gratitude that does not take good things for granted. It builds a kind of resilience that becomes the actual foundation beneath whatever comes next, rather than something separate from it. I want you to consider that today might represent less of a sudden, unearned gift and more of a natural continuation of everything you have already been building through your patience and your continued effort. The door opening today is not appearing out of nowhere. It is opening because of a long accumulation of choices you made to keep going even when the path forward was unclear, even when discouragement would have been completely understandable. I want to speak honestly about what a genuinely significant blessing actually requires from a person receiving it, because I do not want to suggest that today is simply about passive reception without any further effort or responsibility on your part. A blessing large enough to genuinely change your circumstances tends to require real capacity to receive it well. Capacity that is built specifically through the kind of difficult seasons you have already walked through. The version of you that exists today, shaped by everything you have endured, is considerably better equipped to receive and sustain something significant than an earlier version of you would have been. I want to talk now about what it might mean for today specifically to represent a turning point, without assuming that turning point has to look dramatic or immediately obvious. Sometimes a door opening looks exactly like that. An unmistakable, visible shift in circumstances that everyone around you can clearly see. But often, especially at first, a door opening looks much quieter. A specific opportunity presenting itself in ordinary clothing, a conversation that ends up mattering more than it seemed to in the moment, a decision that quietly redirects the trajectory of everything that follows. I want you to remain open to both possibilities rather than narrowing your expectation down to only one specific, dramatic form. The blessing must take in order to count as real. Some of the most significant turning points in a person's life do not announce themselves loudly. They arrive quietly, almost easy to miss if you are not paying attention, and only become fully visible in hindsight. Once enough time has passed to see how much they actually changed. I want to speak about the specific fear that today's potential might somehow pass you by if you are not paying close enough attention. I understand that fear, but I want to offer a gentler way of holding it. You do not need to scan every single moment of today with anxious vigilance in order to recognize a genuine opportunity when it arrives. Genuine turning points tend to have a certain quality to them, a sense of rightness or resonance that becomes noticeable even without forced, exhausting attention. Trust that you will recognize it when it actually arrives, rather than assuming you must strain constantly to catch it before it slips away. I want to talk now about what has actually been building in you throughout this long season of waiting, because I think you deserve to understand it clearly, rather than simply being told to keep waiting without explanation. You have developed a deeper capacity for patience than you likely had before this season began. You have developed a clearer sense of what actually matters to you, refined through the process of wanting something and not receiving it immediately, which tends to clarify priorities in ways that instant gratification rarely does. You have developed resilience specifically through continuing to hope even when circumstances offered little visible encouragement to do so. I want you to understand that these developments are not separate from today's potential blessing. They are the actual foundation that makes receiving and sustaining something significant genuinely possible. A blessing handed to someone who has not developed the capacity to steward it well tends to create as many problems as it solves. The version of you standing here today, shaped by genuine difficulty, is considerably more prepared to receive something significant than you may currently give yourself credit for. I want to speak honestly about the specific exhaustion that comes from a long season of hoping without clear resolution, because I do not want this message to suggest that everything up to this point has been simple or painless. Continuing to hope when circumstances offer little encouragement is genuinely tiring. It requires ongoing internal effort, a kind of quiet vigilance against the pull toward cynicism or resignation that difficult circumstances naturally encourage. I want you to know that this exhaustion is legitimate, not evidence that your hope was somehow insufficient, simply evidence that maintaining hope under real strain is genuinely demanding work, deserving of real acknowledgement. I want to talk about doubt as well, because I suspect there have been moments throughout this waiting season when you privately wondered whether your continued hope was actually reasonable, or whether you were simply refusing to accept a difficult reality that was not going to change. I want to address that doubt directly. Doubt during a long season of waiting is not evidence of weak faith. It is simply an honest response to genuinely difficult circumstances. What matters is not the complete absence of doubt, but the fact that you continued choosing to hope even while doubt was present, rather than requiring doubt to fully disappear before you were willing to keep believing. I want to speak now about what it actually means for a specific door to open today, in a way that goes beyond simply comforting language. There is a real connection between sustained effort combined with sustained hope and the eventual arrival of genuine opportunity, though that connection rarely operates in the immediate transactional way people sometimes expect. It functions more like patient cultivation, where consistent effort over time creates conditions that eventually allow genuinely significant opportunities to become both visible and accessible to you, rather than remaining permanently out of reach the way they may have felt during harder stretches of this season. I want you to consider that everything you have built through this long season of waiting was not simply preparing you to endure more difficulty indefinitely. It was preparing you to actually recognize and receive genuine opportunity when it finally arrives, with real capacity rather than exhausted disbelief. A person who has given up entirely on hope often struggles to fully receive good things even when they finally arrive, because they have trained themselves so thoroughly to expect disappointment that genuine opportunity feels unfamiliar, even slightly unbelievable. You have avoided that particular trap by continuing to hold on to hope, even imperfectly, even with real doubt present alongside it. I want to talk now about what specifically might begin shifting today and in the days following, because I do not want this message to remain entirely abstract. You may notice, gradually, a growing sense of clarity about decisions that previously felt confusing or overwhelming. You may notice conversations landing differently than similar conversations have landed before, carrying a weight or significance that surprises you slightly. You may notice opportunities appearing that specifically require the kind of resilience and patience you have already developed through this difficult season. Situations where your particular capacity for sustained hope under pressure becomes genuinely valuable rather than simply something you privately endured. I want you to pay attention to these shifts as they begin appearing today, not with anxious scrutiny that examines every small development for proof that everything has changed, but with a kind of quiet readiness that simply notices and receives what arrives without demanding it conform to a specific, dramatic shape. A genuinely significant blessing does not require immediate, overwhelming confirmation to have been worthwhile. It simply requires you to continue being who you have already shown yourself to be, someone capable of hoping through genuine uncertainty while remaining open to the different forms that today's opportunity might actually take. I want to speak about comparison for a moment because I suspect you have occasionally wondered why other people's circumstances seem to resolve more quickly or more visibly than your own, despite your consistent effort to maintain hope through genuine difficulty. I want to address that comparison directly. Other people's timelines are not a measure of the value or the eventual outcome of your own sustained hope. What has been quietly building in you through this difficult season does not need to match anyone else's visible progress in order to eventually matter in your own life, in your own time, in a way specifically suited to what you have actually developed through this particular stretch of waiting. I want to speak honestly about the specific loneliness that can accompany maintaining hope. When the people around you do not fully understand or share that same commitment to trust through difficulty. There is a particular kind of isolation in continuing to believe when others around you have already moved on to resignation or cynicism about similar circumstances in their own lives. I want you to know that this loneliness is real, and I do not want to minimize it. But I also want you to know that this particular season of sustained, sometimes solitary hope is building something in you that will eventually connect you with other people who share that same capacity. People who will recognize in you something they have also had to develop through their own difficult seasons. I want to talk now about gratitude, not as an obligation, but as something genuinely useful as you move through today. Gratitude tends to widen a person's capacity to notice good things as they actually arrive, rather than remaining so fixated on what has not yet happened that the things which have already begun shifting go unnoticed. I want to invite you to notice, honestly, whatever small signs of opportunity might already be present today, even if they feel modest compared to what you might be hoping for eventually. I want to speak plainly about self-compassion as well, because I suspect you have been considerably harder on yourself throughout this long season of waiting than you would ever be towards someone else, demonstrating the exact same sustained hope under the exact same pressure. If someone else had walked through everything you have walked through, maintaining belief through genuine uncertainty, continuing to hope despite real discouragement, you would likely admire them without hesitation. I want you to consider extending that same admiration toward yourself, rather than continuing to minimize what your own sustained hope has actually required and accomplished. I want to talk about rest now, because I think you have likely postponed it more than you should have, believing that maintaining hope meant never fully acknowledging how tired the process of sustaining it has actually made you. Rest is not a betrayal of the hope you have built. It is what allows that hope to continue sustainably rather than eventually collapsing under its own accumulated weight. I want you to give yourself permission to actually rest. Not as a reward you have to earn through more sustained belief, but simply as a necessary part of continuing to be who you have already shown yourself capable of being. I want to speak now about the specific relief that comes from finally being met by circumstances that reflect what your sustained hope has already been building toward. That relief tends to arrive gradually rather than all at once, through an accumulation of smaller confirmations rather than one single dramatic turning point. Even on a day specifically marked as significant, I want you to remain open to receiving that relief in whatever form it actually takes, rather than narrowing your expectation down to only one specific shape it must arrive in to count as genuine. I want to talk about the people who may not fully understand or acknowledge what your sustained hope has actually required, because I do not want to promise you universal recognition that may not actually arrive from every direction. Some people, even today, may continue underestimating what maintaining belief through genuine difficulty has cost you internally. I want you to know that this does not diminish the reality of what you have built through this season. Recognition from every single person was never the actual measure of whether your hope mattered. It mattered independently of universal acknowledgement. And it continues to matter even from the people who may never fully understand what it required of you. I want to speak now about what practical steps might look like as you move through today and into whatever comes next. First, continue maintaining the same quiet trust that carried you through the hardest stretch of this difficult season. Even as circumstances begin to shift more favorably, it is easy to assume that hope becomes unnecessary once things start improving. But the same steady trust that sustained you through difficulty remains valuable as you navigate whatever new chapter is beginning to unfold. Second, allow yourself to actually receive good developments when they arrive today, rather than immediately searching for reasons to doubt them or brace against their eventual disappearance. There is a difference between healthy discernment and reflexive suspicion born from prolonged difficulty. When something good genuinely arrives, let yourself receive it fully, rather than immediately assuming it will be taken away. Third, continue extending grace to yourself during moments you inevitably still doubt or struggle, even as your circumstances improve. Sustained hope does not mean the complete absence of doubt going forward. It simply means continuing to choose trust more often than you choose complete resignation, even while doubt occasionally remains present alongside that continued trust. Fourth, remain patient with the pace at which the fuller resolution of this season actually unfolds. I know waiting has already cost you a great deal, and I do not want to suggest that further waiting, even in a more hopeful season, is simple or easy. But genuine, lasting resolution tends to arrive gradually rather than instantly, built on an accumulated foundation rather than a single dramatic moment. Trust that foundation rather than needing immediate, complete proof that everything has shifted all at once. Even today, I want to speak now about the specific fear that today's potential blessing might somehow not last, that circumstances could shift back into difficulty, and everything you have quietly built through sustained hope might feel undone by a future hard stretch. I want to address that fear honestly. Hope built through genuine, repeated testing over time is considerably more durable than hope that has never actually been challenged. What you have built through this difficult season tends to hold steady through future difficulty as well, precisely because it was forged through real uncertainty rather than simply assumed without ever being tested. I want to talk now about identity for a moment, because I think a great deal of what has sustained your hope through this difficult season connects back to a clear, steady sense of who you actually are, separate from how circumstances have treated you along the way. Circumstances shift constantly, sometimes rewarding sustained hope quickly, sometimes seeming to test it for a much longer stretch than felt fair or reasonable. But the core of who you actually are has remained steady beneath all of that shifting, and that steadiness is precisely what allowed your hope to continue, even when circumstances offered very little encouragement. I want to speak about community as well, because I think sustained hope through genuine difficulty can sometimes feel isolating, especially when the people around you do not share the same depth of continued trust under real pressure. Even a small amount of genuine connection with someone who recognizes and shares that same quality of sustained hope can meaningfully lighten the sense of isolation that this particular kind of trust sometimes produces. If you have felt alone in maintaining this depth of belief, consider that connection with people who share similar depth may be part of what today brings toward you. I want to close this extended reflection by speaking directly to whatever specific doubt is loudest in you right now, in this exact moment, as you continue reading, whatever that particular doubt is. Whether it concerns whether your sustained hope actually mattered, whether today will actually bring the shift you have been waiting for, or whether you have truly understood what this season required of you. That doubt does not have final authority over what is actually true about your life. Doubt is persistent, and it often feels convincing, but it is not always accurate, and it does not change what has genuinely been built in you across this long, difficult season of sustained hope. So take one more slow breath before you close this message and move forward into whatever the rest of today holds. You have maintained something valuable for a long time, often without external confirmation, often at real internal cost. Something is genuinely allowed to shift now, even quietly, even gradually, even before you can fully see every piece of what has already begun changing around you. And you are allowed to let yourself believe that one honest day at a time. There is one final thread I want to leave with you, because I think it ties everything else together in a way that might make the whole message easier to carry once you step away from it. Everything shared here rests on one simple truth, that your sustained hope was never dependent on receiving immediate, visible confirmation in order to be real and valuable. You are not required to have received perfect proof at every step in order for your continued trust to have genuinely mattered. That value existed the entire time, quietly underneath whatever confirmation did or did not arrive, present even during the seasons it felt most uncertain. I want to leave you with a simple, honest picture to hold on to today. Picture yourself a year from now, looking back at this exact day, remembering the specific stretch of sustained hope you have already walked through. Imagine that future version of yourself being able to say honestly that the trust you maintained during this quiet, often uncertain season became the very foundation for whatever came next. Not because confirmation arrived instantly on this specific day, but because the hope itself was never actually dependent on that confirmation to matter. That future is not separate from what you have already built. It is simply the natural unfolding of a pattern that has already been established through countless moments of continued trust you maintained when giving up would have been fully understandable. Remember, one final time, that you have already demonstrated exactly the kind of sustained hope that difficult seasons require repeatedly across many different moments of genuine uncertainty without a single guarantee that circumstances would ever visibly improve. That fact alone deserves more credit than you likely give it in your quieter, more discouraged moments. Carry that evidence with you gently as you move through today, not as pressure to perform unwavering hope flawlessly, but as a quiet, steady reminder available to you whenever doubt returns. You have already built something real through this season. Whatever comes next simply continues to reveal what was already true about your capacity for sustained trust long before circumstances began confirming it more visibly. Before you go, I want to leave you with a few simple, practical things worth holding on to today. Notice the small signs of change rather than only watching for something dramatic and undeniable. A moment of unexpected clarity, a conversation that goes better than anticipated, a quiet sense of internal peace about a situation that once felt genuinely overwhelming. These are not insignificant. They are often the earliest signs of a season shifting toward greater resolution. Give yourself permission to rest without guilt, recognizing that maintaining hope through real uncertainty is genuinely demanding work deserving of real recovery. Be patient with how gradually resolution tends to unfold, understanding that lasting confirmation is rarely built or received all at once, even on a day specifically marked as significant. Keep speaking honestly, both to yourself privately and where it feels safe to do so, to people who genuinely understand and value the sustained trust you have maintained. And finally, keep returning to this quiet, steady truth for as long as you need it. What you have built through repeated moments of continued trust was never wasted. Even during the stretches it felt that way. It mattered then, and it continues to matter now, as today gently begins to unfold around what you have already, quietly, consistently chosen to believe. Take a breath. Let your shoulders drop just slightly from wherever they have been holding tension without you fully noticing it. You have already demonstrated repeatedly exactly the kind of sustained hope this day now begins to honor. That track record means something real. Carry it with you gently into whatever comes next, trusting that the resolution you have quietly waited for is finally beginning to catch up to the hope you have already faithfully maintained. I want to speak a little more about what this quieter shift might actually feel like as it continues unfolding today, because I think it is easy to imagine resolution as something loud and dramatic, when in reality it often arrives in far smaller, steadier forms. It might look like a decision that once felt impossible suddenly becoming clear. It might look like a conversation you had quietly worried about beginning to settle into something more stable. It might look like nothing more dramatic than a growing sense of internal steadiness, a quiet knowing that whatever comes next, you have already proven capable of facing it with genuine trust rather than complete despair. I want you to hold space for all of these possibilities rather than narrowing your expectation down to only one specific form. The blessing must take in order to count. Sometimes the most meaningful confirmation is the quiet kind. The kind that settles into your own sense of security rather than arriving as a dramatic external event. That quiet kind of confirmation tends to last considerably longer than anything more dramatic, precisely because it does not depend on continued external validation to remain true. I want to talk now about what it means to keep trusting even after today begins to unfold favorably, because I do not want you to mistake this day as a finish line rather than a continuing process. Hope is not something secured once and then permanently guaranteed. It continues to require the same quiet, consistent choice that sustained it in the first place. Trust chosen again tomorrow, hope maintained again in the next uncertain moment. The confirmation arriving today does not exempt you from continuing that same quiet trust going forward. If anything, it simply confirms that the trust has genuinely been worth maintaining all along. And that confirmation can become fuel for continuing rather than a reason to relax entirely into complacency. I want to speak plainly about the fear that once this confirmation arrives, you might somehow lose it through a single moment of renewed doubt, or a single difficult stretch that tests your hope again. I want to address that fear directly. Genuine hope, built through repeated difficult moments over a long period of time, is not erased by a single moment of renewed struggle. You are allowed to have moments of doubt even within this day of confirmation. What matters is the overall pattern you have established, not flawless, unwavering belief in every single moment going forward. I want to talk about humility for a moment, because I think it deserves careful attention as you step into this day of greater confirmation. Genuine humility is not the same as refusing to acknowledge that your sustained hope mattered. It is possible to recognize honestly that your continued trust has been significant while still remaining grounded, still remaining aware of how much effort it required, still remaining grateful rather than entitled about whatever confirmation arrives today. I want you to hold both of these truths together, that what you have maintained genuinely deserves acknowledgement, and that receiving that acknowledgement well requires continued groundedness, rather than any shift toward assuming you are now owed something simply because you have sustained hope through difficulty. I want to close this reflection with one final, honest thought. Everything shared here rests on a truth that was true long before this message reached you and will remain true long after today ends. You are someone who has consistently chosen to hope when giving up would have been fully understandable. That choice, sustained across a genuinely difficult season, has built something real in you, something that was never actually dependent on immediate confirmation in order to matter. Whatever begins unfolding today is simply the natural continuation of a foundation that has already been quietly, faithfully established. Carry that truth gently through today. You do not need to chase confirmation or force it to arrive faster than it naturally will. You simply need to continue being who you have already consistently, faithfully chosen to be, trusting that whatever is already beginning to unfold will continue to reveal itself clearly, in its own time, exactly as it has already begun to do. Wherever you are reading this, whatever room, whatever moment of today this happens to be, let it settle into you fully before you move on to whatever comes next. You are not required to feel completely different immediately. You are simply invited to remain a little more aware of what you have already built through sustained hope, trusting that whatever is unfolding today will continue to reveal itself. Patiently, one honest hour at a time, starting from right now, there is more I want to say, because a single closing thought rarely carries a person through an entire day of quiet anticipation. So stay with me a little longer, even if part of you feels ready to move on now that you have heard something reassuring. I want to talk about the specific weight of having carried hope for a long time without much visible confirmation. There is a particular kind of loneliness in that, one that has nothing to do with being physically alone and everything to do with feeling like your steadiest, most difficult choice to keep believing went largely unnoticed by the people around you. You have likely continued trusting in moments no one else witnessed, simply because that is who you have decided to be, regardless of whether anyone was there to see it or affirm it. I want you to know that going unwitnessed does not mean going unnoticed entirely. Every version of your sustained hope that never received acknowledgement from another person, every quiet moment of continued trust too private for anyone else to fully register, none of it went unnoticed. It mattered even in the moments it felt like it was happening in complete isolation, unseen by anyone at all. I want to speak now about the small, quiet acts of sustained belief you have shown that likely went completely unrecognized by anyone else. The private moments you chose to keep hoping when a small part of you wanted to simply stop. The times you continued trying even when previous attempts had not produced the results you wanted. The instances you chose to interpret a difficult situation with hope rather than despair, without anyone else observing how much effort that interpretation actually required. None of that was small. It takes real strength to maintain hope consistently while carrying real uncertainty. And that strength deserves acknowledgement, even if you have rarely given it to yourself. I want to talk honestly about the specific frustration that can accompany sustained hope without matching visible confirmation, because I think you have likely felt it more than you have said aloud. There is something genuinely difficult about continuing to trust while watching circumstances remain unresolved for far longer than felt reasonable or fair. That frustration is not petty or ungrateful. It is simply an honest reaction to something that does, on the surface, appear unfair. I am not asking you to suppress that frustration or pretend it does not exist. I am asking you to let it exist honestly, without letting it convince you that your own sustained hope was therefore pointless or unnoticed. I want to speak about patience for a moment, not as passive waiting, but as an active, ongoing choice to keep maintaining hope even while visible confirmation continues to feel slow in arriving. Real patience involves continued trust alongside continued waiting, and it deserves genuine respect rather than being dismissed as simply enduring without complaint. The patience you have already shown across this long stretch is not separate from the hope being confirmed today. It is part of the very foundation that confirmation rests upon. I want to speak honestly about setbacks as well, because I do not want to suggest that once confirmation begins arriving today, everything moves forward smoothly without any further difficulty. There will likely still be moments ahead when your hope is tested again, when maintaining trust feels just as costly as it ever did. That does not mean the confirmation unfolding today is not real. It simply means hope, once built, continues to require maintenance, the same quiet effort that built it in the first place. I want to talk about identity for a moment, because I think a great deal of what has sustained your hope connects back to a clear, steady sense of who you actually are, separate from how circumstances have treated you. Circumstances shift constantly, sometimes confirming sustained hope quickly, sometimes seeming to test it for a long stretch of time. But the core of who you actually are has remained steady beneath all of that shifting. And that steadiness is precisely what is now being confirmed more visibly today. I want to speak about community as well, because I think sustained hope can sometimes feel isolating, especially when the people around you do not share the same commitment to trust under pressure. Even a small amount of genuine connection with someone who recognizes and values the same depth of belief you have been maintaining can meaningfully lighten the sense of isolation that sustained hope sometimes produces. If you have felt alone in maintaining this kind of trust, consider that connection with people who share similar depth may be part of what today brings toward you. I want to close this extended reflection by speaking directly to whatever specific doubt is loudest in you right now. In this exact moment, as you continue reading, whatever that particular doubt is, whether it concerns whether your sustained hope actually mattered, whether confirmation will actually continue, or whether you have truly understood what this season required of you, that doubt does not have final authority over what is actually true about your life. Doubt is persistent, and it often feels convincing, but it is not always accurate, and it does not change what has genuinely been building in you across this long, quiet season of sustained trust. So take one more slow breath before you close this message and move forward into whatever comes next in your day. You have maintained something valuable for a long time, often without acknowledgement, often at real personal cost. Something is genuinely allowed to shift now, even quietly, even gradually, even before you can fully see every piece of what has already begun changing around you. And you are allowed to let yourself believe that one honest day at a time. There is one final thread I want to leave with you, because I think it ties everything else together in a way that might make the whole message easier to carry once you step away from it. Everything shared here rests on one simple truth, that your sustained hope was never dependent on being witnessed in order to be real. You are not required to have been confirmed perfectly at every step in order for your continued trust to have genuine value. That value existed the entire time, quietly underneath whatever confirmation did or did not arrive, present even during the seasons it felt most uncertain. I want to leave you with a simple, honest picture to hold on to today. Picture yourself a year from now, looking back at this exact day, remembering the specific stretch of sustained hope you have already walked through. Imagine that future version of yourself being able to say honestly that the trust you maintained during this quiet, often uncertain season became the very foundation for whatever came next. Not because confirmation arrived instantly, but because the hope itself was never actually dependent on that confirmation to matter. That future is not separate from what you have already built. It is simply the natural unfolding of a pattern that has already been established through countless moments of continued trust you maintained when giving up would have been fully understandable. Remember, one final time, that you have already demonstrated exactly the kind of sustained hope being confirmed today, repeatedly, across many different seasons, without a single guarantee that it would ever be visibly acknowledged. That fact alone deserves more credit than you likely give it in your quieter, more discouraged moments. Carry that evidence with you gently as you move through today, not as pressure to perform unwavering hope flawlessly, but as a quiet, steady reminder available to you whenever doubt returns. You have already built something real. Whatever comes next simply continues to reveal what was already true about you long before circumstances began confirming it more visibly. Let this be the day you choose to continue being exactly who you have already consistently chosen to be. Gently, honestly. One honest choice at a time, trusting that the confirmation already unfolding will continue to become clearer as you keep walking forward. That has always been enough to build something real, even during your hardest, most uncertain seasons, and it remains enough today as well. I want to add one final thought before this closes completely. Whatever specific outcome you have been hoping for throughout this season, hold it with open hands rather than a tightly closed fist. Sustained hope does not require you to dictate the exact shape resolution must take. It simply requires you to remain genuinely open to receiving whatever form that resolution actually arrives in today, trusting that what unfolds will ultimately serve you better than the narrower version you may have originally pictured. You have already proven, through everything you have walked through, that you are capable of trusting without needing every detail explained in advance. Carry that same capacity forward into today and whatever comes next. Let it be enough, once again, exactly as it has already been enough to bring you this far.